Hi, welcome to Richard Bey Talk. Americans love independence. Oh, our national holiday on July 4th is called Independence Day. We love independent thinkers. We love Jimmy Stewart in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, who stood up against the political establishment and exhaustedly filibustered a bill and in the end was a big hero. On my old radio show on WABC, one of my slogans I used to repeat often was, "Don't let the media meld with your mind," which was another way of thinking, of saying, think independently. Get the facts and develop your own opinion. Well, we love independence until we don't. Now, I am not independent on this broadcast. I have Albert Reinoso as the producer who's helping me here today. And how
Hello.
was your how was your cruise out?
It was excellent.
You didn't fall off the ship and float in the water for 15 hours.
I did not, no. I
All
I
right.
I spent 15 hours at the, buffet, though,
Yeah,
so I
buffet.
almost got lost there.
I once went on a cruise to Bermuda with the TV show, and to me, the food was like 50 ways to prepare Cool Whip. Everything tasted like it was. It was all jellied and what did they call it? Fluffy stuff?
No,
They'd say peanut butter mousse, chocolate mousse. It all tasted like Cool Whip,
not
and
not here.
we hit a storm. So when you're in your cabin, everything the doors all fling open. You gotta batten down the hatches,
Mhm.
as they
That's right.
say. All right, let me get back to
But did you
independent.
even notice? I got
What?
off at one port of call. The only thing I did there was get a haircut.
Yes, I did
Oh,
notice. It's
okay.
an
All right.
improvement. You should have had a haircut on the bottom part of your face as
That's coming
well.
soon. That's coming
That
soon.
all right. But independence is something that well, we like it until we don't like it. This week, Kirsten Cinema, who had been a Democrat, and for a week we had been parading and enjoying and exclaiming, "Oh, we have 51 senators." And in the midst of that parade, she decided to have a cloudburst when she announced this.
Growing number of Arizonans and people like me just don't feel like we fit neatly into one party's box.
Yes. So she declared that she would become an independent. And of course, over the last few days, that has been a topic of discussion on all the more progressive shows. Frankly, I don't really get it why it's so important. She voted with Joe Biden 93% of the time. She voted with the Democrats more times than Bernie Sanders did. And before this, even though we were exclaiming, "Oh, we have 51 senators, Reverend Warnock won. This is an incredible achievement. Let's celebrate." Well, we didn't really have 51. We had Angus King and Bernie Sanders, who are registered independents. Now they do caucus with the Democrats, and Sinema's going to do the same thing. Now, when she first came on the scene, I thought, wow, a gutsy independent. She was the first person in Congress to reply none when they took a survey and asked about her religion. She was the first bisexual member of Congress. She had worked for Ralph Nader, and when she first entered the Arizona legislature, she was affiliated with the Green Party. And I thought, well, this person is interesting. And, she does have a PhD in legal justice, and she does have a JD as well. So she's brainy. And she did the Ironman triathlon in 15 hours. So she's also brawny and brainy. And then, well, she's a gutsy, independent iconoclast. I would say an iconoclast. That word comes from someone who would go into churches and smash the icons. Religious extremists who said you should not make graven images. It's sort of, oh, it's okay when the Christians do it, but when the Taliban does it, then they're villains, of course. Now, as I said, I've always been intrigued by iconoclasts. I voted in 2000 for Ralph Nader. I voted for Perot in '92. I voted for Sanders in the primary. So shaking things up has always been a part of my character, both personally and politically. But with an iconoclast, there's always the danger that they're untethered to not only political principle, but untethered somehow emotionally. There's a certain narcissism that accompanies the iconoclastic character. Because basically you're saying, hey, I know something that everybody else doesn't know. I'm better informed than everybody else. And it's not always an attractive quality. In 1968, two iconoclasts ran for president. Maybe you remember George C. Wallace and his vice president, bombs away General Curtis LeMay, who argued with John F. Kennedy that we should immediately bomb Cuba and invade the country during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Two iconoclasts. Not people that we admire so much. Elon Musk was an iconoclast. We loved him when he had the Tesla. When he named it after Tesla, who went after Edison. He was an iconoclast, a free thinker, a guy outside the box who ended up in madness, basically. So iconoclasts are not always coming on the scene without a potential danger. Now, as I said, I voted for Ralph Nader in the year 2000, but a lot of the things I thought were wrong. I was on CNN and I explained why to Bill Press on Crossfire. Watch this.
We can. So, Richard Bey, I want to come back to you as a centrist, let's say, but I understand a Nader supporter in New York. Would you agree, just as a factual statement, that if Ralph Nader had not been on the ballot, Al Gore would be president-elect today, particularly based...
I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. If Ralph Nader had been on the ballot, it would have affected so many other things. Perhaps positions that Al Gore might have taken in the last few days and things that he might have said, as well as the fact that there were many Nader voters, I think, who wouldn't have voted at all if he wasn't running in that election.
Well, Nader got 95, and of course all eyes are on Florida, that's what we're talking about, and my question is directed there. Nader got 95,000 votes in Florida. Are you saying, and so Bush is ahead 900, you don't even think maybe 10% of those 95,000 would have voted for Al Gore?
But you know what? It's a possibility, but it doesn't concern me. The man that I was passionately attached to, as a man that I saw as my leader and a man who was consistent over 35 years and had a vision for this country, was Ralph Nader. It was not Al Gore.
Does it concern you now that as a result of that candidacy, George Bush could end up being president of the United States, or do you just don't care?
Only if I'm concerned over whether Harvey Weinstein or the next CEO of Halliburton gets to go to the White House dinner.
Bernie, let's...
Boy, was I wrong about that. Now, we can go through all sorts of alternative histories about what the nation would be like today if Al Gore was president. Perhaps we'd be much more progressed on doing something about climate change. But, we probably still would have had 9/11. And the Republicans would have blamed Al Gore for that. He would go down in infamy after that. Now, my major problem with Al Gore at that time was that the Clinton administration, or the Clinton campaign, was money grubbing left and right. I think at the time they had more corporate and political and financial donations than any candidate in history. And Al Gore was in the White House soliciting contributions for the campaign, which is against the law. When he was informed of this, Al Gore said, well, there is no controlling legal authority. He was wrong. There was one. It was the Congress, which could have impeached him, but they didn't. But to say, oh, listen, yeah, I broke the law, but nobody can do anything about it, to me was not an admirable trait. On the other hand, I didn't realize that Dick Cheney would be president for 4 years. We would have a ridiculous, trumped up WMD campaign to get us into war in Afghanistan. So, but and I was in New York, so I voted in New York, which was overwhelmingly Democratic anyway. So I was not in Florida. My aunt, who was in Florida, who wanted to vote for Al Gore, ended up voting for Patrick Buchanan because of that wacky butterfly ballot. So, look, I believe that Al Gore was not the same as as George Bush. And their presidencies would have been wildly different. But so I was incorrect then. But now Kirsten Cinema, as I said, she votes most often with Democrats. 93% of the time she's going to continue to caucus with them. But she did vote against raising taxes on corporations. And she did almost single-handedly stop and inexplicably one of the most ridiculous loopholes in our tax law, which is the carried interest deduction that hedge fund managers get. They get taxed at 20% instead of, people who are taxed generally at 35 or 37% for their labor. It's a ridiculous loophole. But maybe not to Kirsten Cinema, who received so many donations from the financial industry and from corporations. And it seems that's why she did vote for that. And then, of course, we all remember John McCain. When the Republicans tried to destroy Obamacare, John McCain emphatically walked to the center of the Senate and went thumbs down. Well, Kirsten Cinema did something similar. She's also a senator from Arizona, of course, a different party, and she was bucking a different party. But when she did it, she flounced out in a little mini skirt and moved around as if she was doing a TikTok video, like, take that. Take a look at this clip.
Miss Cinema. No.
Yeah, she took that little bunny dip. All right. And that was a vote against the raising the national minimum wage to $15, which I have to say, it is arguable. There are good arguments against raising the minimum wage that high across a country as varied demographically and geographically as this country is. So, that could be understandable. On the other hand, to come up and go, it's like a gal in a TikTok video saying, "You think you can have me? I'm too hot for you." So yeah, there is a great degree of egotism involved in narcissism as well, involved in Kirsten Cinema's performance in the Senate. And the timing is also, I don't know, the timing was also weird. If she had done this before the election in Georgia, it would have been worse, because then electing Walker to the Senate would have determined who would control the Senate in the minds of the voters, and it might have actually aroused Republicans to go to the polls. But the fact that she did it right so close, as everybody was, "Don't rain on my parade." Well, she rained on the parade. But let me ask you this. So, and this is the question that a lot of people are asking. So, she's up for re-election in 2024. Let's say in Arizona, the candidates are Carrie Lake, the venomous Carrie Lake, Ruben Galejo, is that his name? The Democrat who's already sending me emails, for me to send him money for his campaign in 2024. And Kirsten Cinema as the independent. What I say is, don't underestimate Kirsten Cinema. And it isn't just because, of this whole independent party, I'm not a Democrat anymore thing. I mean, she's already running an ad in Arizona talking about why she's an independent. And watch this ad. There are not that many political candidates who can look into a camera or appear on a camera and appear to be talking right to you. Charlie Crist tried it in Florida against Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis can't do it. He's a whiny, irritable. He has no on-camera persona at all. That's why he has his wife coming on. She was a television TV anchor. Carrie Lake is good at it if you like that sort of thing. But here's Kirsten Cinema's new ad. Take a look at this.
Make decisions about what's best for ourselves, our family, and our community. And so we don't spend a lot of time thinking about, is this a Republican idea or is this a Democratic idea? Is this liberal or is this conservative? That's not how Arizonans think. What we think about is, what's right for my family? What's right for my community? What's right for my future? There's nothing better than waking up in Arizona. Nothing. You wake up in the morning and you think to yourself, I live in a place where I can be whoever I want to be. What I love about serving is that I get to hear from Arizonans day in and day out about what's working in Washington, or more frequently, what's not working in Washington. And I really am grateful that folks have trusted me to take back those concerns that they have. I promised them I would be an independent voice for our state. I promised that I would always do what is right for the people of Arizona. And that's what I've done. Registering as an independent and showing up to work with the title of independent is a reflection of who I've always been. And it's a reflection of who Arizona is. I'm gonna be the same person I've always been. That's who I am. I'm gonna show up to work. I'm gonna do my best for Arizona. I'm gonna continue to deliver results for everyday people. Nothing's gonna change for me. And I don't think anything's gonna change for Arizona. And I think Arizonans across the state are gonna say, yeah, that's the Kirsten we elected. That's who we sent to DC. And she's doing exactly what we asked her to do. And there's nothing that Arizonans deserve more than a senator who gets stuff done.
That's a great ad. Albert, what did you think?
I agree. It's full of charisma. It
Yeah.
shows a person, not a politician.
And an ability to communicate across the camera lens,
Yeah.
which not everybody has. I mean, I guess I have it since I was on television all those years.
Oh, you have it all right.
But I always say it's a talent, but it's not a great talent. It's not like being Mick Jagger or William Shakespeare or Meryl Streep. Okay. But it's something. And she has that something. Now, so we're going to have 3 parties in Arizona and maybe in other places. But what about the fact that in some places we have no parties? I was shocked when I had read the reports about Tom Cotton's election. Remember, Tom Cotton is the very rigid former veteran who is the senator from Arkansas who looks like he's audio animatronic made at Disney World. Yes, I am him. Or that he's going to shout. So tense. Oh my God, that guy needs a massage. Anyway, when he ran for re-election the last time, the Democratic candidate dropped out. And it was only days after the deadline that the Democrats could nominate someone new. So Tom Cotton ran for senator of Arkansas with no opposition. I was sort of shocked by that. Until recently, I dug deeper. Do you know We all know that George Washington had no opposition when he served 2 terms as president. And, you know, he was the father of the country and the leader in the Revolutionary War, and he chopped down the cherry tree. He was a mythic figure. But do you know that in the 9th election, the 9th presidential election, which was in 1820, James Monroe ran for president and he had no opposition. Can you imagine that? A president running for office and there is no one opposing him? Unsurprisingly, James Monroe won every state. How did he ever do that? All right, but that was 1820. That was so long ago. But do you know that in the last election, this one right here in 2022, let me get this right. When it came to representatives, and mostly because of gerrymandering, and the Supreme Court, allowing partisan gerrymandering, there were 36 races where there was no opponent from the other party. Yeah, you heard that right. There were 24 Republicans who had no opponent, and there were 12 Democrats. And there was no opposing candidate on the ballot. In what was it, 42? Is it 42? Yeah, in 2018, I think it was, there were 42 cases where there was no opposed. Can you have a democracy when there is no choice? I mean, isn't that what they have in, like Saddam Hussein, who wins by 98% of the vote? I don't think anybody had the guts to run against someone like him. Or Putin. Well, Putin does have some opposition at times, but he still wins by ridiculous numbers in his reelection. But to have no opposition? And I know the founding fathers, railed against political parties and factionalism. But how would you like to go, and what would motivate you to go to the ballot box if there was only one candidate? I don't know. All right, so all of that is a real issue, and I'm waiting for the phony issue to reappear. The war on Christmas. What happened? Fox News. It's Christmas season. Where is the war on Christmas? Which was never really an issue. It was just something to rail about, to make your angry viewership, who always feels like they are the victims of some kind of leftist conspiracy. It was just used there to keep their eyeballs on and to on that channel, and to rile them up and make them even more angry and more frustrated and to fight even harder. Well, what about this Christmas? Remember, we used to have these Christmas movies, It's a Wonderful Life, Miracle on 34th Street, all uplifting movies about the spirit of Christmas. Now, whether you're a Christian or not, I think in this country, everybody, to some degree, recognizes the secular, special nature of the spirit of Christmas. So if you go to the movies this Christmas, what are you going to see? Killer Santa? Can we take a look at that first pick? Violent Night with David Harbour, who was on Stranger Things as the killer Santa who rescues his family from terrorists. Or, if you want to go to the movies more than once, you can always go to see Christmas, Bloody Christmas. Look at this one. Christmas. I think I'll be missing these. Look at this. Santa with an axe. Christmas, Bloody Christmas. I mean, what's coming next? It's a Wonderful Death? Murder on 34th Street? The assassination of Santa. Anyway, this is the Christmas season. And I came across this recently, and maybe you'll enjoy it. I hope you will. And it's the Christmas I celebrated in 1964. And as you watch it, I hope you'll notice that this is probably the only time you'll see a child receive a Jewish prayer shawl known as the tallis as a Christmas gift next to the Christmas tree. Take a look at this trip back to 1964. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year, all our troubles will be out of sight. There are my brothers and my mother. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Oh, no, not gay. No drag queens. Next year, all our troubles will be miles away. Look at that boy. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us. There's the tallis. Will be near to us once more. Vacuform! Remember Vacuform? Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas. Now, have yourself a merry little Christmas. I'm going to be up in New York, which is the best place in the world to be for Christmas time and New Year's Eve. So there will be no podcasts for the next couple of weeks by the time we get back together again, dear friends. It will be 2023. Time marches on. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you again in the new year. And remember, if you like this podcast, please share it and tell others about it. And subscribe. This way you won't even miss one episode. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas to you. Oh, you know what? I can squeeze this in. How much time? 27. Okay. One of my favorite Christmas memories is, Kyle is the young boy that I raised. And whenever he would lose a tooth, I'd put $5 under his pillow. And one day, I guess when he was 7 or 8, I said, "Oh, the tooth fairy came to your pillow and put the $5 underneath." And he said to me, with this smile that I can still see when I close my eyes, a very sly smile, "Did you put it there?" I took a deep breath and said, "Yeah, I did." And he said, "And Santa Claus isn't real either, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Why do you do it? Why did you lie to me?" And I said, "It's not a lie, Kyle. It's a little game that parents can play with their children just for a couple of years. A little game where we both can believe that for a couple of weeks a year there is peace on earth, goodwill toward men, and someone who helps us celebrate with gifts. And it's a memory that hopefully the father, the mother, and the child will share for the rest of their lives. So have yourself a merry little Christmas, and all my best to you.